Have you ever wondered why some people are born into luxury while others struggle for basics like education or healthcare? Welcome to the world of social certification. And I am Priscilla Ancañete, the core topic I will report on today for our lesson, A World of Regions. So first, let's define it clearly. When we say social certification, it is a society's hierarchical ranking of people into distinct layers based on factors like wealth, race, education, and power. So this system leads to unequal access to resources and social privileges. For instance, the wealthy elite might enjoy top universities and influential networks, while those at the bottom face limited opportunities. Importantly, social certification exists in all societies around the globe. However, its form and fairness vary widely. In some cultures, it's a rigid caste system shaped by ancient traditions like India's historical castes. In others, it's more fluid, influenced by modern economic system, but history and power dynamics always play a role. This local lens expands when we consider the global divide, also known as the North-South divide. Think of it as social certification scaled up to the international level. Traditional social certification focuses on hierarchies within a single society, like class divides between urban rich and rural poor in the Philippines. In contrast, global certification refers to the unequal distribution of resources, wealth, power, and prestige between nations. Wealthy global north countries like those in Europe and North America hold disproportionate control, while global south nations in Africa, Asia, and Latin America often lag behind in development. So how exactly do they connect? At their core, both are driven by the same root causes. Mechanisms of inequality such as exploitation of labor and land, historical power imbalances from colonialism and imperialism, and ongoing control of key resources like oil, minerals, or advanced technology. These forces don't stop at borders. They create interconnected layers of privilege and poverty across our world of regions. So to summarize my report on social certification, it's the hierarchical ranking by wealth, race, education, and power, causing unequal access everywhere. Forms vary by history, culture, and economics universal yet diverse. And the globe divide mirrors this on a worldwide scale, the north and south inequalities in resources and power. The root connections are exploitation, historical imbalances, and resources controlling local and global layers. So understanding social certification is key because it sets the stage of how regions interact in our interconnected world. It explains trade tensions, migration flows, and why some areas thrive while others face challenges. So that concludes my report on social certification.
First and second, third worlds. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union, which were wartime allies, entered a Cold War, a state of political tension and rivalry from the mid 1940s to early 1990s. Several contemporary works have reviewed this event in the light of post-war events. So the Cold War is not or was not a direct military fight between superpowers but a competition of power, influence, and ideology. The United States supported democracy and capitalism, while the Soviet Union promoted communism. Both countries tried to expand their influence in different parts of the world. So, this rivalry caused the formation of alliances, military build-up, and conflicts in other countries. The Cold War was ended in 1991 after the collapse of the Soviet Union.
So good day everyone. I'm Kinjomar Kaspi Banaay and I will be reporting about first, second, and third world second paragraph. So after the World War II, the global political situation changed significantly. Two powerful nations, the United States and the Soviet Union, become dominant forces in the world politics. Although they were allies during the war, their relationship will later develop into rivalry and tension. So this period of conflict became known as Cold War because there was no direct large-scale military conflict between the United States and the Soviet Union. Instead, they competed through political influence, military alliance, economic support, and ideological promotion. So the conflict began because of differences in political belief. The United States supported democracy and capitalism, while the Soviet Union promoted a communism. Because of these differences, both countries tried to expand their influence and gain support from other nations. First world countries. First world refer countries that allied with the United States and the Western nations. These countries supported democratic governments and capitalist economies. They were generally developed, industrialized, and economically strong. So example include the United States, Canada, Japan, and many other countries in Western Europe. So second world countries, the second world referred to countries that were aligned with the Soviet Union and followed a communist political system. So these countries were mostly located in Eastern Europe and were part of the Soviet influence during the Cold War. So, third world countries. The third world referred to countries that did not strongly support either the United States or the Soviet Union. Many of these nations were newly independent and were still developing economically. So, most third world countries were found in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So in conclusion, the terms First World, Second World, and Third World were created during the Cold War. So to describe the political and economic divisions of the world, this classification were based on alliances with either the United States or the Soviet Union, as well as the level of economic development. So understanding these terms help us better understand global politics and historical events during the Cold War era.
Bright afternoon, everyone. I'll be the last reporter to discuss the final part of the first, second, and third world. This topic is all about the Cold War. It is called the Cold War because the two major powers, the United States and the Soviet Union. They were called the Cold War because they did not fight each other directly in a large battlefield war. Instead, they compete through politics, military build-ups, technology, and influence over other countries. The Cold War was a period of political tension and rivalry after World War II. It was mainly between two powerful sides, the Western Bloc and the Eastern Bloc. The Western Bloc was led by the United States and supported by capitalist and democratic countries. These countries, which are the United Kingdom, Canada, France, and Italy, were part of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or the NATO, a military alliance created for defense and cooperation. They were often called First World countries because they were more industrialized and economically developed. Next is the Eastern Bloc. The Eastern Bloc was led by the Soviet Union, which followed communist and socialist ideas. These countries, which are the Albania, Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, and Afghanistan, were politically and economically aligned with the Soviet Union. Were often called Second World countries because they followed the communist system led by the Soviet Union. In 1974, Deng Xiaoping, Vice Premier of the People's Republic of China, spoke to United Nations General Assembly. He profoundly noted the distinction among the three worlds. So Deng Xiaoping, the Vice Premier of the People's Republic of China, in his speech, he explained the three worlds theory, which divided countries in the world into three groups based on power and development. First is the First World. First World referred to the two superpowers at that time, the United States and the Soviet Union. These countries were the most powerful and influential during the Cold War. Second, the Second World. The Second World included other developed countries that were not superpowers but were still economically strong, such as countries in Europe and other industrial nations. And last, the Third World. The Third World referred to developing countries in regions like Asia, Africa, and Latin America. These countries were still developing economically and politically.
The Brand Report. Early in the 1980s, a comprehensive analysis of global economy was being reported by the Independent Commission on Internal Development Issues. The commission was led by Willy Brandt, West German Chancellor. This analysis was encapsulated in what is popularly known as the Brandt Report. The Brandt Report, officially titled North and South, a program for survival in the 1980s. It was a landmark documented by an independent commission which is led by Willy Brandt. It is basically the visual concept of a line dividing the world into a wealthy north and a poorer south. And the other key proposal from the report was the idea of establishing a global fund to support agricultural development in developing nations. It aims to reduce food insecurity and bridge the economic gap between the north and then the south.
Good day, everyone. I am Merigis Arquiza, and I will continuing the discussion presented earlier by Z. Buliganyo. So, in this part of my report, I will explain the Brandt report kag kung paano ni siya makahelp sa mga tao nga para ma-understand nila ang economic differences between countries around the world. So, the Brand Report daw was a major study about sa global economy that was released in 1980s. So, ang kaning report was prepared by the Independent Commission on International Development Issues, which led by Willy Brandt. So, si Willy Brandt, siya ni ang former Chancellor sa West Germany. So, ang goal sa kaning report is to analyze the economic condition of different countries kag ginapangitaan nilang way para ma-reduce ang global inequality. So, according sa Brandt report, ang countries in the Northern Hemisphere were generally more economically developed, strong ilang industries, higher income, kag smaller ilang population. So, on the other hand, many countries in the Southern Hemisphere na a larger populations and face more economically challenges such as poverty, kag limited ilang mga resources. Kag because of these differences, ang kaninga report ga-introduce sila og concept nga ginatawag og Brandt line. So, ang Brandt line is amo ni siya ang imaginary line nga naga-divide sa world into two groups. So, first, ang developed countries of the north and the developing countries on the south. So, this idea help people to better understand kung unsa ang gap between wealthy and less developed of a nation, and encourage discussion about a global cooperation and development. So, that's all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, I am Hanlin Amante and I will be reporting the defining the global north and the global south. So when you say global north, it refers to the countries that are fully developed and economically advanced. These countries are usually have strong economies and advanced technology, better infrastructure and higher standards of living. Let's say for example the United States. We all know that United States is advanced when it comes to medical or medication. Sa mga hospital nila, mas mga advanced sila mga technology other than ng ibang na country. It is part of the global north because it has a strong economy, advanced healthcare, like I said, modern technology, and many large industries. Another example is Japan, which is known for its advanced technology, transportation system, and highly developed economy. Amo na siya diba ang saying sa iba, lalo na sa TikTok, na ang Japan is living in the future because of how advanced their technology. Like may makita ta sa mga technology nila nga daw ka unbelievable na may nakathink sa usina kaysa Philippines wala diri. On the other hand, the global south, it is refers to the country that are not fully developed or ongoing and developing when it comes to their technology, their healthcare, or their infrastructure. For example, say our country, Philippines. Philippines is part of the global south because it's still developing in terms of the economy and infrastructure. Even though the country is growing and improving, it still faces problems such as poverty, limited resources, pero lalo na especially sa ating healthcare, hindi pagidya kaya ang mga lalo na mga sakit bala, lalo na mga illness bala, wala pagid yung mga materials like the developing country. And most importantly, the most controversial one is the corruption. Corruption is one of main reason na ang ating country wala pa na fully developed because of how our leader is not a good leader at all. Another example is India, which has a large population and growing industries, but it's still not fully developing country. Kumbaga, sobra kadamo sang population, dodo slow ang improvement sang ilang nga mga infrastructure, ila pag-develop sa ilang country. That's all. So, in simple word, the global north, it is a country that are fully developed, may mga technology na silang advanced and all, while the global south, it is refers to a country that is still developing and process and undergoing. That's all.
Bright day everyone, my name is Nodra Nalore and I am the next reporter. And in this report, I will explain how the rise and evolution of a capitalism created disparities in different areas of society. As a capitalist societies develop over time, they brought economic growth, innovation, and industrial progress. However, this development also created inequalities or disparities in many aspects of life. These disparities can be seen in several spheres. First is in the social sphere, where differences in income and access to resources create unequal opportunities among people. Second is the political sphere, where some countries or groups may have more influence and power in global decision-making. Third is the cultural sphere, where dominant cultures or values can shape global trends while others may have less representation. And lastly, there is the economic sphere, where wealth and economic resources are distributed unevenly among nations. Because of these inequalities, the gaps between nations are no longer mainly about geography or physical distance. Instead, they are more socio-economic in nature, meaning they are based on differences in wealth, development, opportunities, and access to resources. In other words, even if two countries are geographically close, they can still have very different levels of economic development and quality of life. So the rise and the evolution of capitalist societies have contributed to economic growth, but they have also created disparities that continue to shape the relationships and inequalities among nations today. And that would be all. Thank you.
Good day everyone, my name is Riva Ibarria. So as a continuation of our discussion on the Global North and Global South, here is the topic from your part. In a nutshell, Global South countries are generally oppressed and deprived in terms of human development, having higher birth and death rates and perceived to be economically dependent on the countries in the Global North, notwithstanding the reality that most of the Global South countries are also rich in both natural and human resources. So to put it simply, this means that the countries in the Global South often face serious challenges in human development. Many of them struggle with poverty, weaker healthcare system, and limited education, which is why birth rates are higher. Families often have more children due to cultural tradition, economic needs, and limited access to family planning. At the same time, death rates are also higher because of poor healthcare, malnutrition, and unsafe living conditions. These nations are often seen as economically dependent on the global north since kay sila ang ga-export raw materials pero ga-rely lang Japan sila sa mga wealthier countries para sa mga finished goods, technology, and financial system. For example, coffee is grown mainly in the global south countries like Brazil, Ethiopia, and Vietnam. Ang mga farmer ginabaligya nila ang mga raw coffee beans at low prices, while companies in the global north process and sell the coffee at higher prices. This shows how the South provides resources but remains economically dependent on the North. Yet, it is important to remember that Global South is not poor in resources. In fact, many of these countries are rich in natural wealth like oil, minerals, and fertile land, and also human resources such as large population and young workforces. The real challenge lies in the global system that keep them disadvantaged despite their great potential. In conclusion, while the global south is often portrayed as deprived and dependent, it holds immense potential. Recognizing both its struggles and strength help us understand why fair trade, cooperation, and sustainable development are essential to bridging the gap between the global north and the global south. That's all. Thank you.
The rise of the global south. This refers to the growing in power and influencing developing nation. South is becoming major player in the global economy, politics, and technology. The term global south is a modern way of saying developing world. It identifies the countries that share the same struggle because Latin American share the same many of these characteristics. Mexico is a leading example of global south, shifting to resource-independent nation into dependent nation. Now, Mexico established itself a global manufacturing powerhouse, for example, electronics and agricultural. Now, they are the rising star that work together to improve the nation.
Good morning everyone, very good morning Miss. I'm Frankie Emmanuel Alasio and my topic is the rise of the Global South through the Latin American experience. The Global South refers to the countries that are generally developing and share similar economic and historical challenge. Many countries in Latin America are considered part of the Global South because of their shared colonial history and socio-economic condition. Latin America can be geographically described as a group of countries in South America that share similar language and cultural tradition. These similarities are largely due to colonization by Spain and Portugal, which strongly influenced the region's language, religion, and social system. Because of this colonial past, many Latin American countries developed similar cultural identities and political structures. Historically, the region has experienced a vibrant but often unstable political environment. Many countries have gone through periods of strong political movement, resistance from grassroots group, and struggle for independence and reform. Over time, these nations have also faced challenges such as poverty, economic instability, and social inequality which have slowed development. Despite these difficulties, Latin America continues to play an important role in the global economy in 2016. Example of America colonial influence. Brazil speaks Portuguese because of it was colonized by Portugal. Second is political instability. Chile experienced dictatorship under Augusto Pinochet. Economic crisis. Venezuela's faced inflation and poverty. Economic recovery. Argentina and Brazil recover from economic turmoil. That's all. Thank you.
In 2016, Morgan Stanley articulated a pivotal shift. Latin America was set to play a key role in accelerating global economy of the following year. However, Brazil and Argentina managed to stand tall and emerge from economic turmoil, even as Mexico faced significant difficulties due to conflicts with US policy at that time. Ultimately, economists highlighted a crucial takeaway. Politics and policy choices remain the most significant factors in determining economic growth across the region.